Ballina, Stephen Knight 6 points. Brafey 4 points, a total of 3 points from the 33rd minute up until the end of the game. So vintage stuff, edge of the seat stuff, popcorn, eating football. I think many people would say there if they hadn't went to it. Yeah, Ballina, I suppose our Mayo champions, first time since 2007. I actually predicted that one as well, funnily enough. So I don't know how I got that one right, but yeah, I mean, maybe this is the way football has gone, but I suppose first of all, Ballina, great result for them, I suppose, to get over the line, because they have been thereabouts in the last couple of years, couple of finals, couple of semi-final defeats.
Yeah, they have been, and there's a lot of history in Ballina. They obviously are All-Ireland champions. I think they've won the All-Ireland twice in their history, so exceptional achievement for Ballina to win the Mayo Championship for the first time in 16 years. And exceptional achievement for the likes of Evan Regan, Padraig O'Hora, who've been so much over the last few seasons. To win a Mayo Championship is very good for them, I'm sure, very good for their families. And yeah, well done to Ballina for winning this championship. But unfortunately, Aaron, that's all you could say. Well done to Ballina. You can't go over scores or anything in this game. 10 points in 60 minutes. 3 points from play in 60 minutes, from what I'm hearing anyway. 5 points in each half. Champagne football. That's just the way it's gone.
Could it be the weather maybe or something? Or?
Jesus, Aaron, you're turning into toy. That's not a good excuse. And even I go back to the Nemo Castlehaven game, even though I was sitting next to my family yesterday, and they were saying that there was a match in Cork over the last few weeks. It finished 5 points to 4 between Nemo and Clonakilty. I was there reporting for the Southern Star, and the pitch was like a swimming pool. So there was an excuse there. You couldn't bounce the ball. It was dreadful weather conditions. But Nemo Castlehaven yesterday, you couldn't make an excuse. The weather was absolutely immaculate. The pitch in Parky Heath was brilliant. And I would say, by the looks of it in Mayo, the pitch looked fine. And I just think players making daft decisions, players more worried about losing than winning. And I think the overall rules as well, something has to be done about Gaelic football. It's only this weekend where I've clicked it, really. And I should have clicked it over the last few years or so. I just think defensive systems and sides passing around for a good 5 minutes, I think it's getting overkill now. It really is. And Roscommon did it in the All-Ireland Championship against Cork and Dublin this year. I know it looked good on the eye against Dublin, but against Cork, you see the detrimental effects of it. It looks boring. It looks incredibly boring. Loud. But I was thinking this today, actually, about defensive systems. I'm thinking, I know I don't like defensive systems in the game, but maybe these are the kind of systems to get underdogs over the line. I know I'm defending defensive systems and all that, but I put it this way. Would Louth have been close to Division 1 if they didn't use defensive tactics? Would Cork be in an All-Ireland quarter-final if they didn't use tactics from Kevin Walsh? Would Derry be in an All-Ireland semi-final 2 years in a row without the defensive impetus of Ciara Mina and before that Rory Gallagher? The answer to those three questions would probably be no. And look, the GA have to meet them halfway here. I think there has to be a punishment for defensive systems, but there also has to be a punishment for attacking as well. Someone actually suggested to me today on Instagram saying that there should be a shot clock. I don't know, will that work in the GA, to be honest with you? There should be maybe a max of 4 or 5 minutes for players, the attacking team, once they're into 45, to take a shot on. If they don't take a shot on within that amount of time, it's a free out. Maybe that could work. But there's another thing as well that I want implemented if that was going to be implemented. There has to be 7 outfield players for the defensive team into the 45. That's what I'd say, to be honest with you, because imagine having a shot clock and every one of the defensive team is in the 45. It's just going to be impossible to shoot. So there needs to be sort of a thing where defense and attack needs to be halfway in this. But all the stuff that's going on with referees as well, I just think Gaelic football is in a terrible state at the moment. It really is. And I take it back to Kevin O'Donovan's point of the Southern Star podcast. He was speaking to Kieran McCarthy. Excellent interview. Check it out if you haven't already. It was I think, in August or September, or them kind of months. He was saying, actually, that football has become unwatchable. And I was looking at that thinking, okay, I'm a fan of Gaelic football. It hurts me to the core that a Cork CEO was saying this. But maybe he's onto something. Maybe something has to be done with these sorts of games. Like, you look at Nemo Castlehaven yesterday, and an extreme example, the Mayo final yesterday. I looked at Joe Bradley's tweets yesterday, and that was probably the most entertaining part of the game. That says it all, really. And there's something has to be done by the GA, but at the same time, with all the abuse that's going on with referees, with the thankless job that the referees have with keeping time, I just think more people need to be employed to make it a very good game of Gaelic football, because I think, and it's just so sad for me to say this, I think the game of Gaelic football, compared to like soccer, to rugby, to hurling, I think it's dying. And I think, I don't know, was it Tyrone that started with the defensive systems in the noughties? Was it Derry that started with their extreme defensive systems? Was it Jim McGuinness at Donegal? I'm not sure. But I think the game, as we know it, unfortunately, it's dying. And those two games in particular, those county finals, which should be showpieces for the whole country, the Cork and Mayo finals, brilliant days out for the players, I'd imagine, should be excellent days. But they weren't. They were two drab games of football, and hopefully we won't get any more drabs of games of football like this. But unfortunately, I think there's a long way to go to the club championship in football. I think we're going to see more of this, unfortunately, rather than less of it, and I'm sad to see it.
Yeah, like I think in terms of defensive systems, like I think from my own, I didn't really watch too much football, obviously in the 90s. So obviously I wasn't alive back then, or I was a baby or whatever in the mid 90s, so I wasn't really watching Ulster football back then. But yeah, people can let us know. But from Tyrone up through Donegal, like it probably has the evolution of it has changed. I suppose the point of it is the same, but it's maybe been different adaptations. I think McGuinness brought it probably one step further than what Mickey Hart had. And yeah, like I've never, I think I've said openly on this channel and multiple times before, like I've had no qualm really with defensive football, defensive systems, mainly because at the end of the day, like different teams have different ways to win. And there's plenty of examples all the way down through history in Gaelic football, in other sports as well. If every team just plays the same way, you're going to get, too many one-sided hammerings. And I actually think the reason why you do have so many teams who play defensive nowadays is because of the fact that the gap has become so big between certain teams. I think you have some teams that are of a very professional standard that are basically, you have some clubs that are basically like inter-county teams. Then you have some clubs that are very amateur, and very sort of grassroots level. And I think the gap has become so big. And even if you look at inter-county level as well, between, like, I'm a Dublin fan, but I would openly say, like, Dublin, like the gap that Dublin have over other teams in Leinster, and then even going around the All-Ireland series as well, the gap is so huge. Like, if you look at like Dublin, say Carlow or Wicklow, like the gap is so big. So I think like managers and coaches have gone into them counties and sort of looked at it and thought, well, if I go toe to toe, like, because I'd imagine as a manager, or like, and we've both played club football at different stages, like a manager doesn't just come in and be like, yeah, we're going to go out and, go toe to toe. We'll beat them. We really genuinely believe, like, I don't think any Carlow manager has gone in anytime they're playing a Dublin or, Wicklow or whatever, and gone, and they come up against Dublin, or they come up against a team from divisions above, and they go, do you know what, we can beat them today if we go toe to toe, because they know it's just not possible. Like, the talent isn't there, the resources aren't there, coaching levels aren't there. So I think the only way some of these teams can approach it is get men behind the ball, try and absorb pressure, maybe just try and nick a result, keep the score down. And I think that's just followed on. I think counties have seen Ulster teams do it. Donegal, Derry do it. Donegal have had success with it. Derry have had success with it. At club level, we've seen multiple teams like Kilkew have success with it. So I think, coaches around the country are probably looking at it and thinking, well, it works here, it works there. So, well, why not? What have they got to lose? At the end of the day, they don't care whether the game is entertaining or not. They just care about results. And maybe that's where we've gone. It's a results-driven business nowadays,
Possibly is. And I don't think even the Castlehaven players will give a hoot what me and you were saying. They're county champions, and nothing can take that away from them. Same as Ballina Stephenites. They'll be celebrating tonight. They won't care about us talking about it. But I think it's the fact, I know Carlow Loud do Carlow the days of Turlock O'Brien, but that was the only way they were going to compete with those big sides. But I think we're talking about bigger sides doing it now. and it's kind of creeping into the game. Like, for example, a big example, Nemo Rangers, and Colin Parker's referenced this earlier on today on Twitter, the great Nemo Rangers, all-Ireland champions 7 times, exceptional club, and they're reverted to these defensive tactics. Why? You know, it's just the way game's gone. Maybe it's a results-driven business, and as I was saying, maybe it was the same for the Ballina Stephen Knights at Bravey. It was definitely the case for the Castlemaine and Nemo game. Mayo people comment below whatever the Mayo game was like, but to me, look at the scoreline, it was almost like the same as the Cork game. Sides are afraid to lose rather than going out for the win. And you're right, it's just a results-driven business in many ways, and it's just sad to see. It really is. I probably shouldn't be complaining because Kevin Walsh has come into Cork. He's implemented a defensive system, and Cork ultimately have got a lot of plaudits for that, and nearly beat Derry in the All-Ireland quarterfinals this year. We've got closer than any other year since Conor Coonan in general, but we have to do it playing defensive football. A size of a county like Cork, and I just feel that's wrong in its own right as well. The big side shouldn't be reverting to these sorts of defensive systems. Even Tyrone, with the amount of resources that they have at this particular moment in time, shouldn't be resorting to defensive tactics. Derry, maybe so. Like, Derry are a small enough county, they'll have to do their bit in doing so, in competing. But most counties are big counties, and they use blanket defense systems and try and choke the line over a game. And I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is. Is it too many psychologists? Is it too many people in the backroom team? Is it nerves getting to you? I don't know. Like, and then you talk about nerves. Like, Nemo won a county last year, and they're still playing defensive football. Like, there should have been no pressure on them yesterday. Like, it's really, really poor. Maybe Ballina were playing, and maybe Brave, but yeah, it's a difficult one. Really, it's like Ballina should have its resources to deal with whatever comes in Mayo. So you question, why are they playing defensive football as well? It's really, really poor the way it's gone, and I don't see it stopping. To be honest with you, I think we're going to see more dull games. We're going to see, but at the same time, whenever there's a hammering, we complain as well. So it's almost like the punters kind of complain when hammering happens and complain when a low-scoring game happens. So they can't meet in between. But we'd love it, actually, just to meet it in between, to have some competitive games, but as well as competitive games, exciting games. And that's all we want in the game of Gaelic football. Like, you looked at the Kerry Championship last week. I was watching Big Kerry and Dingle. Very good game of football. The sides were kicking the ball. They were kicking the ball into the forwards. They were claiming marks. They were doing exceptional all over the field until Big Kerry pulled away at the end. But Dingle had 2 men sent off, and that was why the result was kind of skewed. But that's the way football should be played, not the stuff that happened in Mayo and Cork yesterday. So I just feel that football needs to be played in the right way. There should be no fears in going for the opposition's throws at whatever cost. But it seems like, unfortunately, defensive systems are taking over.
Yeah, Jack says here, Dublin Kerry only one's watchable. Mayo too, maybe they will go defensive now. And even, you know what, like, Dublin played defensive at times, for different large parts of times this year. I remember when we played Clare in the league and we were setting up, with every man inside around 45 at different times. And it's, it is a strange one when you do see the bigger counties who don't traditionally play like that. We've obviously seen Kerry bring in Paddy Talley as a defensive coach. Now, I wouldn't say they're playing an outright, blanket defense or anything like that, but they're clearly it is creeping a lot more into the game, and you'll see Kerry shut up shop in a lot of different matches as well. And it does seem to be, the way to be. And as Jack says there, I think Mayo have been very attacking in the last couple of years, and you could see them do a complete 180 going into next year. Look at Galway, for example. Look at Armagh, who do complete 180s going into this season, who went from very overly attacking style of football to shut up shop, keep the ball. And I think that's probably just, I think it's the way the game is perceived as well. The way on Twitter, you have a lot of different coaches and all these different people and everything else, and it's all about shooting and scoring zones. And I feel like the game has become very overly analytical. It's like, don't get me wrong, obviously you're a stats man yourself, and I think statistics are brilliant, but I just feel like we're going a bit too over the top with it. With you can't shoot from here, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like, the game isn't becoming enjoyable anymore. Like, that's the the honest truth of it. I think like it's all shoot from here, shoot from there. You can't pass here, and we're taking the fundamental skills out of Gaelic football out of the game, and I think that's probably what's setting it back as well.
Maybe so, yeah. Maybe it is. Maybe I should not put up the maps of scoring positions and things like that. Maybe that will, force coaches not to look at them at the stats and stuff after games and just let players off the leash. Because honestly, that's probably all we want in the game of football. It really is. But like, it's a hard one. It really is a hard one to judge. Maybe it is becoming analytical. It probably is, to be honest with you. But some people don't care about stats. Some people don't care about it. But still, the game is going backwards, and it's as simple as that. You know, it's a really, really strange one to comprehend. Really, yeah, it's a difficult one. But I think players are shooting in ridiculous positions because of the defensive pressure being put on them and defensive systems. Like I've seen games where Derry and Croke Park were playing 50 men in their own half. Loud and Parky Keefe did the same thing. And you're thinking, like, how are attacking teams going to get over this? You know, that's the honest truth of it. And yeah, it's going to be difficult to see how the game changes. But until then, I think Kevin O'Donovan's absolutely right. The game is becoming unwatchable and it's becoming boring. And it's as simple as that. And I seen a game a few years ago in the Kerry Championship, St. Brendan's Board and Austin Stacks. I remember the two teams because it was such a horrendous game. It was 3 points apiece at half time. And I had a rant in that game. And it wasn't because of Kerry football and things like that. It was because it was the game in general. The game is becoming more defensive, more shooting zones, things like that. And we just want a game going full on hell for leather. And even the battles things is gone out of the game as well. Like I even looked at the first half of the game yesterday. Players weren't going in for battling challenges or anything like that. Like that's what football was all about over hurling. Football seemed to have more battles than hurling did. Like shoulder to shoulder, intensity, everything. As Pat Spillane would say in the Sunday game when he was there, intensity. There was none of that in the first half yesterday. And this is Nemo Castlehaven, two of the 3 top runners in the Cork Football Championship. So where's the intensity? You know, that's the honest truth. I'd imagine there was no intensity in the Ballina Bravey game either. I hear Mayo fans were actually leaving at half time in that game, a county final.
Mad.
So, you know, I just think the game's going backwards. It's not just, I think analytics and stats probably have a part to play, but I just think the intensity is kind of out of the game as well. And that needs to be probably revisited. Not in an over-aggressive way now. I will stress that. Not pushing over referees or things like that. Just an aggressive game of football where you're tackling properly, where you're shouldering. All the elements of the game, that needs to return into the game. Or else the game's just going to die. And it's just unfortunate, really, Aaron, that we're coming to this stage.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It definitely is. And I suppose, yeah, like, and I think maybe instead of maybe using the term overly analytical, maybe it's just the game's just become very complicated. Like as Jack was saying there about too many spoofers, and you have all these performance coaches and everything else sort of coming in who, like you've got famous hurling managers going into certain counties as performance coaches and boxers and all this crack. It all is a bit mad,